Come on, baby. Come on back to me now.
Hey!
And
we're back. The internet cut out, but we're doing it. We're back here. Thank you, everyone. Come join us again.
Do it.
Yeah, we're going to call that. I think we're just going to call that part one.
Yeah.
And we'll close it out there. We don't really have anything else. We had some little local stories and stuff.
Meh.
Yeah. Apparently.
That was a better part one anyways.
I like it.
Fuck the local stories. Let's talk about movies.
Yeah, good pop culture talk. Good stuff. So.
I really want to watch that movie.
It's incredible.
I really want to watch
Can't
that movie.
recommend it enough.
Looks really good.
There were a couple of moments I had my mouth open. I was like, I just couldn't believe it was wild.
Ooh.
Wild. Yeah. There were some very. I thought my wife died.
Oh,
He said, I'm sure he meant Wi-Fi. I am certain that he meant Wi-Fi, but that's hilarious. I thought my wife died.
Oh my gosh.
No, Bilbo, it was us.
It was us.
We're here for you.
It was weird. Yeah. Internet went out.
Yes.
And then by the time I went back to the modem, it was like, well, it looks like it's firing all cylinders. And oh, no, she's back.
Well, we're back. So with that, I want to thank everyone for joining us here at Soda Streets.
Yeah, thanks for coming back.
Episode 137. We're just going to go into part 2 here. My name is
Woo!
Donovan.
I am Colin.
We are happy to have you guys here.
I remembered to say my name again.
That's right. There you go. Follow us here. SaltofTheStreets.com. Like, subscribe, comment to all of these videos here. Instagram.com/SaltOfTheStreets.
And we're back.
Patreon.com/SaltOfTheStreets. Go there, subscribe, sign up, help us make more, better content, just like this. We have the book club, we have the beer shows, we have the live streams, which are the beer shows. We have the newsletters, all these fantastic things. Go there. $5 a month gets you the newsletter, gets you all these amazing, amazing things. Deborah has been one of our patrons for a while now, so you can ask her about the newsletters.
It's legit.
They're great. I'm a huge fan. So,
did you want to talk about your book real quick?
Oh,
was that something you were going to do in part one? Or
I'm
okay.
going to talk just for a minute about it, just because I hadn't talked about it at all, because I didn't get to do the live stream because my family has been sick. The babies have RSV.
Boo.
Yeah, super weak. So, I want to talk about this book just for a minute. This is the November book, as Deborah knows, How to Have Impossible Conversations by Peter Boghossian, James Lindsay. I am 80 pages into this book. I have really enjoyed it so far. Deborah says, oh no.
Oh no.
Oh, the RSV. I'm sure that's what I'm like. Oh no. I thought she was going to stream for a second. Was the stream down again? No, everything is okay.
Gun shy.
Yeah, the children are getting better. They're on the come up. Obviously, the worst one is a little baby. She's 6 months. RSV. It is what it is. But she is getting better. Things are okay. Thank you very much, Deborah. Yeah, so the November book.
Mm-hmm.
How to Have Impossible Conversations.
How many pages are you in again? 80 something?
80 pages. Yeah, today is the 12th.
Slightly behind schedule there, big shooter.
Whoa.
6.6 pages a day on average.
Yeah. Okay. So we're getting there. It's been a crazy week. Okay.
Exactly.
It's been quite the week. So don't worry about me. I'll get my pages in. Okay. Don't worry about me. I'll get the pages in. But the only things I really want to say about this is that I am reading this book. I'm enjoying it. I think that it will be helpful not only for difficult conversations, but conversations between me and my wife, or conversations between just with the regular people. So it's broken down into, I think, 4 different levels of the conversation. So there's like a beginner level of steps that you can go through. There's an intermediate and a master level.
Oh, nice.
There's different steps that you can take to help you have these conversations, right? So one of the biggest things that I'm pulling from this is just listening more, asking more questions, but also genuine questions that are pointed and get to somewhere, not just general information questions, right? So I realized probably about a year ago, came to terms with the fact, I guess I should say, that I'm very, very good at conveying information, very good at conveying information. I am not necessarily the best communicator. Very good at conveying information, not necessarily the best communicator. Sometimes I don't listen to everything that people are saying to me. I get wrapped up. I start thinking about what's happening next. I have a bad habit that I'm actively working on correcting, because one of the things they suggest in this book is to use the steps in one chapter in real life before you move on to the next one. So as I read them, I'm trying to find things that I can easily and actively implement into my everyday conversations to try and improve those. So one of the things that I'm working on is building rapport. Right? I have a terrible habit of someone telling me something and relating what they've said to something about myself, and my response is, that reminds me of this about myself, which is not a terrible thing. But if you're building rapport, a more effective way to do that is to ask more questions about what that person said about their experience doing that thing. Maybe then later you tell a story about yourself. And when you were saying this, it really reminded me of this time that I did this. I really enjoyed this, right? I have a terrible habit of doing that. People telling me something and I immediately think about, oh, when I did this or I had something like this, I do that a lot. So that's something I'm actively trying to work on, is not relating things to myself. And so in turn, asking just more questions about what that person said to try and get a better handle on their experience, the way they perceived that thing, and the way that that is affecting the conversation that we're having now and what they carried forth with that. So that's something that I'm actively working on.
I like that.
As a result of this book.
I think that would have helped you out greatly when you had your conflict-laden conversation with the one-handed man at Dave & Buster's that kicked you out because Justin Bieber was coming in.
Yes.
That was
That's a throwback. That is a throwback. For anyone who just heard that, that's real. That's a real thing. That's a real thing that we've talked about on the show. He didn't make that up.
Nope.
That's a real thing.
It's a great story.
So, yeah, it's a very good book. I can't recommend it enough. I think that it would be good for anybody. Like I said, I think it will be better it will help me have better conversations with my wife, regular ones and tense ones. It will help me have conversations with other people. Another thing is giving ground, ceding a lot of ground. That's a big thing, it seems, in having especially a difficult conversation, ceding a lot of ground and giving a lot of grace, being very understanding, and always assuming the best thing. Always. Even if it's a contentious conversation, you're unhappy, you feel angry, you feel stressed, you feel whatever. Always being present enough with yourself to continue to give grace and continue to assume, sure, that's not what they meant when they said that. That's just how it sounds to me, and giving the most charitable interpretation of what something that someone is saying.
Yeah.
In that conversation, instead of stopping and be like, well, you said this and it really made me feel like this, and so I want to tackle this first.
Yeah.
If you're trying to solve a problem, if you're trying to reach a goal, taking alternate routes on the way there is not going to help you get there. It's only going to make it more difficult. So instead, just try to be more charitable, be more open. Like I said, when you hear something that doesn't rub you quite the right way, like, I'm probably just internalizing that a little bit because of how I feel. Move on from that. You don't need to worry about that. Don't stick to that detail. Focus on the big picture. Keep getting there.
That makes sense, because when you think about the vast majority of conversations, contentious or otherwise, most people don't start off trying to be, I won't say disingenuous is the wrong word, but like generally speaking, people are trying to have an honest enough conversation to try to convey whatever their thoughts at that moment are.
Yes.
And generally speaking, most of us are not that great at doing that. So giving grace to people like that, I think, it's got to be the best way to do that, because whether or not that person ultimately has bad intentions or not, they're trying to convey something to you, and you need to do your best at that point to assume that they're trying their utmost to convey their honest take on whatever the opinion is, or whatever their thought that they're trying to form is. Most people don't disingenuously try to manipulate conversation like that right from the jump. Some people do, but
most of the time when someone is laying something out and they lay it out in a way that doesn't feel right to you, it's because of the way that they've perceived it and internalized it before they spit it out. So that's another big focus, is epistemology, right? Which is, I did not know that word, the definition of that word prior to that, but the basics of it is epistemology is how someone knows what they know. And so they advocate largely in this book for focus on epistemology. Don't focus on what they're saying, because that's not necessarily as important as why they're saying it and how they got to that endpoint. Because they could be saying something that's completely wrong. In that case, it doesn't matter really what they're saying. It matters how they got there. How did you arrive at such a false conclusion to this?
Yeah.
And that's going to be a more fruitful conversation if you're investigating how they got there than just trying to prove them wrong and show them why this isn't a good thought, right? Instead, ask more probing questions. I don't remember exactly.
That sounds like the thing that we got to during the blind reading on the bookshelf. They were talking about that concept a lot. Yes. I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so that's been a big thing, is asking more questions about why someone believes that and why do you think that? What would be this? So I implemented that when I had my conversation with Jordan about gambling, about sports betting.
Oh, okay.
Just a lot of questions. There wasn't, I didn't say one time, I think this is my opinion. It was, what are you about this? Do you think this? Is it possible this? All those things. And also they don't call them pointed questions. There's a specific term for them.
Was she anti-sports betting and you were pro?
She was.
I think it just went out again.
That's so weird.
What is happening?
I didn't think it was like windy outside or anything.
No. I don't know what's going on here. Oh, maybe it's fine. Maybe it's fine. Yep, we're back.
You're back. Okay.
Oh my
all right.
gosh. What is happening today?
I don't know.
The gods are against us.
We're out in the sticks. Just so everyone knows, we are out in the sticks. We do not live in the city.
Bro.
We're deep out here. When the wind hits hard. Be getting after us out here.
Yes.
We talked about that in a little video that I posted on Instagram. Part of the reason we didn't do a live stream last week, you didn't have any internet. You literally couldn't. You had no power, no internet. There is no ability unless you're going to do it from your phone, which is not how it goes.
No. So this is going to be great. Now I'm going to be super paranoid because of what we're going to talk about next. You're like, you know what's happening? They're coming out against us.
Yeah. Those new politicians.
That's right. They're getting in there. Well, we don't have new ones here. We have old ones.
Not really, yeah.
We have old ones.
I'll let you know if the internet goes out.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now I'm just really... Brett on Pop Culture Crisis was talking about this in one of the recent shows because they kept having issues where OBS would drop, and it just turned out to be like a tech issue they had going on.
It's the feds,
but you get fucking gun shy now, dude.
Don't do that to us, guys.
What's going on? What's going on?
Yeah, I started the show with a warning to YouTube. It's not good. Let's try to stay positive about what we're doing here.
Elon, you bought the wrong platform, buddy. You should have brought YouTube with all your billions and billions and billions of dollars.
Get Wojcicki out of here.
Boo.
That's her name, right? Susan Wojcicki?
I believe so. We're gonna need more beers for this.
Oh yeah. Okay, so with that, let's get into part 2.
Truth Cops.
So that's right. This article is from The Intercept. You guys can go there. We should link to this article. Throw the link in the chat if we can.
Can do.
Yeah. Susan Wojcicki. Is that what I said?
Probably not.
I don't know. It's whatever. Susan Wojcicki. Yeah. I'm here for it. Bilbo knows. Bilbo knows the things.
Mama Susan needs to go.
That's
Por favor.
perfect. That is perfect.
I was just thinking about, more beers. Look at this.
What a great wife. Thank you so much.
Of course.
I love it when the flight attendant's in town.
I'm here to serve. and the next pause, I'm gonna give you a hug.
All right.
Oh, there we
All
go.
right, I'm
There
here
we
for
go.
it. All right. So part 2, governmental involvement with social media. Is how I have it written out here. Truth Cops is the name of this article. Colin just put it in the chat there. If you guys want to read it, if you want to share with anybody else, of course, subscribe, share, comment on this, like it, tell everybody about it. It's the only way that any of this information is ever going to get out. I want to start right here. Right? We have been talking about this type of collusion for some time now.
Oh, yeah.
So it should surprise nobody that this is what we're seeing. I think what is so upsetting is the level of deception needed to keep the narrative continued that this isn't happening, and the obvious gaslighting until they said the quiet part out loud with the government, with the governance board. That was kind of the thing that blew the doors off of it. That, like, hold on, you're talking about not just these little groups that were made in Donald Trump and these other little factions of DHS. You're talking about an active group whose job it is to police and deal with misinformation and
You guys are being
disinformation,
way too
right?
open about this.
Yeah. So at that point, that kind of blew the doors off of the whole deal of, like, there's obviously something deeper going on here than what we can factually prove, right? So we are going to just kind of read pretty much this whole article, and we will go through it. What are you finding?
I was going to pull up the video from
Of that woman?
but it's
singing
not,
the song?
It was so bad.
It's really scary.
How they did it.
It's really, really scary.
Yeah, that's all right. We're not going to go there. We'll go back to the article.
Yeah. Okay, so we will read this article and we will take some stops along the way and talk
Again,
about the
meant
different
for us to
aspects
do
of it.
this on the stream because they do the
Yes.
column style.
Wow.
Huge fan of how people do this
Good
these
for
days.
you.
It's like, we know what you're going to do with this, guys. Here you go.
Shout out to The Intercept. Also, shout out to The Intercept. We've been listening and watching, reading their content for quite some time now.
Yeah.
They definitely have a left-leaning tilt, no question.
Yeah, once Glenn Greenwald left, it
Took a hard left tilt.
did.
They were very left to begin with because Glenn Greenwald is very left.
They were
but-
always very left, but it got kind of weird for a while.
Yeah. And on you don't have the news guard or whatever ground news thing up at the top. So my breakdown for this is 7% left, 6% center, and 87% right. And what that means is that this topic is covered by 87% right-leaning sources,
Yes.
which means only 7% of left-leaning sources covered this. The Intercept included, which is the originating source. This is the source material,
Boo.
right?
Boo.
Not good.
Nobody
Not
talks about
good at
this.
all.
It's
No.
not on mainstream media at all.
No, it's only on the new media. That's not any of this. Yeah, so the bias distribution. See, the people on the left that covered it are Head Topics, The Intercept, Odyssey.com, AUDACY, and MakeUseOf.com, which sound like.
Isn't Odyssey that video platform?
No, that's
a different one?
Not this one. This is AUDACY. This is a different platform. That's ODYSEE or some shit like that. So, and that what that tells me, the fact that there's only these 4 over there,
That's
that tells
nuts.
and these other 2, Odyssey and MakeUseOf.com, sound to me like. What do you call that when what like Libs of TikTok? What kind of account is that? Like a like culmination account or something like that.
Yeah, where they
right?
collate.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
talking
it's
about.
where they just gather other
So
things.
it looks to me like that's what Odyssey.com and what MakeUseOf.com are sites that do that just gather information to catalog them so that people can see it. So
MakeUseOf.com.
there you go.
Trending topics. That's interesting. PC and mobile's #1 lifestyle hardware. This is definitely a tech platform.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it's a middle of the road tech platform as far as Ground News has them described.
Oh, yeah. Fact check true.
So
I like it.
middle of the road. Okay, so let's get into this article. Again, shout out Intercept. The Department of Homeland Security is quietly broadening its effort to curb speech it considers dangerous, an investigation by The Intercept has found. Years of internal DHS memos, emails, and documents obtained via leaks and an ongoing lawsuit, as well as public documents, illustrate an expansive effort by the agency to influence tech platforms. The work, much of which remains unknown to the American public, came into clear view earlier this year when DHS announced a new Disinformation Governance Board, a panel designed to police information, misinformation, false information spread unintentionally, disinformation, false information spread intentionally, and malinformation, factual information shared typically out of context with harmful intent. That allegedly threatened U.S. interests. While the board was widely ridiculed, immediately scaled back, and then shut down within a few months, other initiatives are underway as DHS pivots to monitoring social media now that its original mandate, the war on terror, has been wound down.
Focus inward. Interesting. I don't like the
Yes,
addition of the newer term malinformation.
No.
I was already uncomfortable enough with mis and dis because people have a right to lie about things, and that's always been the case, and you could do that all the time. But by the time you put in malinformation, which is true, but lacks context in some form
With
of
harmful intent.
how do you fucking prove
That's
intent?
the other part, is attributing intent
To
to somebody
who?
when they're a meme account.
Yeah,
Just a meme account, a random account that's
Exactly.
on there. Libs of TikTok, sharing information that's factual, but it's out of context and it's with malice. You didn't.
of course. I'm
You
just
don't have any
sharing
way
you the
to-
information.
Right, and that's you can see how easily those coalition. Thank you. You can see how easily just those definitions can be applied to somebody like Libs of TikTok, of an account that doesn't post their own content. They don't say anything. They don't really editorialize any things they put up. They tell you where this came from, who the person is.
Yep.
They just collect information and put it out there. But it could, in 2 seconds, I found a way that it can be used against them.
Yeah.
Right? It's just to attribute malicious intent for them. When
Nope.
you don't have any way to know that. And before Taylor Lorenz doxed that
Yeah.
woman on the internet, nobody would have even known who she was.
Nope.
So
I was just gonna say that. I was like, yeah, it was essentially just like it was like a there's another word I'm trying to think of, but yeah, it was a coalition account or whatever. It just gathered various bits of data and like put it out there for people to see. There was no intent behind it necessarily. It could have been, I mean, you could easily see it if Libs of TikTok was themselves
curating
one of the
curation account.
Ah, yes, because that's what my Twitter feed is, just a curation of information, right?
Pretty much. Yeah.
But I mean, depending on the person behind Libs of TikTok, that account could have gone either way. It could have just been people that were like proud of these TikToks being put out there, and it was only perceived to be a negative thing because of who this person was,
Right.
or the popularity that it gained on one side as like a, libs posting their L's type of thing. You
Right.
know, it could have been interpreted completely differently depending on who watched it at that point.
Right.
Which is weird to think about. It's all in the interpretation of the viewer at that
Your
point.
perception. Yes.
Yeah.
So about the way that you perceive that information.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you imagine a world in which Libs of TikTok was embraced by the same people that post those TikToks and go, oh yeah, this is just it's a account that shows the best of us doing our things with our neo pronouns and this, that, and the other thing. And it's just like, if you want to know about all these things, go to Libs of TikTok. You could see it all. It only became negative because a certain faction picked up on
Right.
its popularity.
Had the right not focused in, and I can see it's
It could have gone.
yeah.
Mind you, we know much more about the person behind Libs of TikTok now, and we know what it is. But
Well, and I'm just thinking, my only hang up. You're not wrong. My only hang up that it took me a while to get there is that the part of the reason the left pushes so hard against Libs of TikTok is because they don't want that information out to just anybody. They want it out to the people that they want it out to. So when you show it to anybody, they're like, hey, you can't fucking do that. Why? I thought you were proud of this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So in a world where they actually bought their own bullshit, yes. And the right had not bought into Libs of TikTok, they would be sharing it all over the place. It's like, look at how fucking cool we are. When it's so opposite of how it exposed them 100%.
Yeah.
And if they didn't see it that way, if it was someone who even was editorializing to the effect that they were saying, check this out, in a positive way. Check this out, prayer hands, clapping emoji, whatever. They were like, it's fucking awesome, right? Checking out all these different genders and all the whatevers, and look at this teacher with the fake tits and all the things,
Yes.
Be pleased about it.
so I'm really upset we don't have closure on yet. We don't know if that's a total troll or not.
Right.
We still don't know.
I would like to think it's a troll. I
yeah.
would prefer to think that it's a troll. That this guy is just like, I've had enough of this shit.
Yeah, it seems to be, but we just don't know.
I just don't know. Because
Some things you're never going to find the answers to. We're never going to find out about the hammer.
Because I saw something yesterday that someone ruled, it must have been a court or something, that dude can continue to wear those fake tits at work.
Word.
Like, you, what?
Word.
What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Well, even if that is real,
Yeah.
it's gonna caught this much fire, and you're still gonna be like, yeah, fuck it, just keep going.
Do it.
You do you, man. I'm pro tits. I'm here for it. That's crazy. That's a crazy way to think.
Side note, Luke Witkowski.
Rudkowski?
He,
The shop teacher, yes.
Yeah, the shop teacher. He dressed up as the shop teacher for Halloween.
Oh, really?
I saw that on the
awesome.
on the Cast Castle.
That is awesome.
Word. Anyway,
Right.
sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Let's continue.
It's getting so dark. We got to bring a little light in here.
Behind
and we're only in
closed-
the first part.
It's quite the article. We're going to spend the full segment on this article. Behind closed doors and through pressure on private platforms, the U.S. government has used its power to try and shape online discourse. According to meeting minutes and other records appended to a lawsuit filed by Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmidt a Republican who is also running for Senate. Discussions have ranged from the scale and scope of government intervention in online discourses to the mechanics of streamlining takedown requests for false or intentionally misleading information. Streamlining, right? Making it easier for them to request to take things down off of the internet. This is a quote now. Platforms have got to get comfortable with government. It's really interesting how hesitant they remain. Microsoft executive Matt Masterson, a former DHS official, Okay, this is another level of this that I don't think necessarily addressed in this way. It's not their fault. That's not what this is about. But there's a whole other level of this, of the level of collusion, the revolving door from government to private sector, and this is not just about information. It is the military, like we talked about last episode. It is, in this case, information. It is the medical company. It is the medical companies, people working for the FDA who used to work for Big Pharma. It's all over the place. It is every facet of the government that we will welcome you in and then high five you on the way out. If you want to work here, then work there, and then come back here, and then come back there, and just keep doing whatever and double dipping as long as you're not doing it at the same time.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, but when you look at all of the big tech companies, including social media companies, all of their cybersecurity personnel and a lot of people in the engineering realm of like creating the codes and the algorithmic stuff, they all used to work for the government in cybersecurity. The vast majority of people that work in the private sector in that realm all came from previous cybersecurity jobs in the government.
Yes.
This is how these relationships got built. It's because they're all the same people. They're talking to their old colleagues. That's how we got here. This is not just, it's not just, it would almost be worse if it was just random people that were in the private sector that reached out to the government reached out to them, and they had this handshake deal and all. These are the same people that were in government before. And then they got the jobs at the big tech platforms, and now they're just talking to their old colleagues. And of course, that relationship is going to intensify.
Right.
It's disgusting.
Yeah, it would be, just to harden your example, it would be dark enough if it was just Vigigati meeting with the different members of the DHS and these boards and stuff like that to figure out what's going on. But he said instead... And
she's like a rare case where she didn't used to work for the government.
Right.
She's a very rare case.
But she has colleagues and coworkers who did.
Yep.
And so they have that foot in the door on both places of being able to say, well, I work with these people right now, and I can advocate for them to work with you and advocate for you to work with them, and just make sure that I speak my piece the whole time. That's just going to be so much easier if we just all work together,
Yeah. They're all pro-government shills that went into the private sector.
Yeah, isn't that great? In a March meeting, Laura Demlow, an FBI official, warned that the threat of subversive information on social media could undermine support for the U.S. government. Dear Lord.
Yeah, which I did not realize became illegal.
Yes, you must. If you live in America, you must support the United States government, or else get the fuck out.
Yep.
That's the whole... This whole love it or leave it thing, and I know we got like a lot of whatever.
Love it or leave it.
Yeah. It's not a good way to think about this country. America, love it or leave it. That's not a good way to think about this place, right? We've talked many times about nationalistic pride that we have to a certain extent and all that type of stuff. You need to be realistic with yourself and with the place that we live, and recognize that this government does not have your best interest at heart. There's people who run this government do not have your best interest at heart, right? There's a difference between America, American values, and American government.
Yes.
Those are all very different things.
That's why I say at the top of every show, we're pro-America, anti-government.
100%.
Yep.
100%.
America and the U.S. government are not the same thing.
100%.
Nor were they ever. I hate to be one of those guys, but America's an idea. It kind of... It's a group of founding ideals, and it's ensconced in the Constitution as best as they could. But I mean, it is a set of morals and values and ethics that is liberty based.
Yes,
and that is what America is. And if you embrace those things, you can be an American too.
Yes,
that's the idea.
It is certainly
has nothing to do with the government.
No, and it is certainly not, as Joe Biden has said, we the people are the government.
No.
It certainly is not. Those are not the same thing.
Nope.
We the people are not the government. Those are very, very, very different things.
Yep.
They couldn't be further apart from each other, we the people and the government. Yep. They're in fact the exact opposite of each other.
Yep.
So that's how it's a good, just a peek into the way these people think about you, the way they think about this country, and the way they see the dynamics and how they should work out. That we are we the people. From a Joe Biden perspective, we are we the people.
We are.
What do you mean? No, you're not. You are
Nope.
no longer the people. You are the president of the United States. You are no longer the people.
You haven't been the people, bro, in like 50 years.
You don't count anymore. You don't count
No.
into that number of we the people. It doesn't work that way.
Take your fucking Carhartt shirt off there, Fetterman.
I hate that shit. I hate it. Demlo, according to notes of the discussion attended by senior executives from Twitter and J.P. Morgan Chase,
Yeah.
right, a banking company, stressed that we need a media infrastructure that is held accountable. Okay, there is a certain element of truth to that, right? That we do need a media infrastructure that is held accountable when they say things or actively attempt to mislead people. When they're gaslighting people about COVID-19, about any number of things, about the security of a given election, those things need to be held accountable for that, because you lied. You straight up lied to people. You knew what the truth was, and you actively tried to lie to people. You tried to dissuade us and alter our thinking. You deserve and need to be held accountable for that.
Yep.
Do you need to be held accountable if you say something that the government doesn't like? No, you don't. That's not at all how this works, right? You, as the media, it is your job to cut against the government. That's your job. That is your job, to hold them at account, not yourself. Not that you shouldn't be holding yourself accountable.
Yeah.
It is your job as a journalist, as journalists, as the media, to hold the government accountable for what it is doing.
What they used to call it, the fourth estate or something like that?
The fourth state.
The fourth estate? Yeah. Because that was the entire job. Is when the all-powerful betters try to tell you something, if it's not true, the media tells you
Yes.
that.
But now they actively corroborate.
They're all the same thing now.
Yes, now they actively corroborate with these groups to ensure that you aren't receiving the correct information for you to make up your own mind. That's what's happening right now. And
Control the narrative.
yeah, we'll get into a little more, then I'll make my first point. We do not coordinate. This is very important, right? We do not coordinate with other entities when making content moderation decisions, and we independently evaluate content in line with Twitter rules. A spokesperson for Twitter wrote in a statement to The Intercept. They're telling you, we don't work with anybody else when we make these decisions. When we make content moderation decisions, and we independently evaluate content in line with our rules. No one else tells us what to look at. No one else tells us what to do with it. That's what they just said. That's what they told the media. That's what they told The Intercept to, again, by all accounts, it's left. Very accurate, very honest. This is not a news source that if someone presented it to me, I would say, oh, well, it's The Intercept. You never know. I'd say, well, if they're writing about it, it's probably correct, because they don't tend to lie about shit.
Yeah. And you know what that is? That statement is a piece of malinformation.
Yes.
That is a true statement that lacks context, that, what do they say, malinformation? That intent
With
to harm.
ill intent, yeah. With
Because
intent
what
to
they're
harm.
talking, because what they said is probably factually true, that they make these decisions on content moderation independently based off of their rules.
We independently evaluate content in line with Twitter rules.
But
Yes.
their rules are set up in coordination with the government.
Right. And also, we're being sent a piece of information that we don't have to look at,
Yeah.
but people would like us to look at. And so because it's there, we'll take a look at it.
Yeah.
We decide, though. We don't have
We
to do
decide.
that. We decide if we want to look at it.
Yeah.
They just submit it to the portal. We'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to the
There's
portal.
also a formalized process for government officials. It's so great. This article is written so good,
Yeah.
the way that it's constructed. There's also a formalized process for government officials to directly flag content on Facebook or Instagram and request that it be throttled or suppressed through a special Facebook portal that requires a government or law enforcement email to use. At the time of writing, the content request system at facebook.com/xtakedown/login is still live. DHS and Meta, the parent company of Facebook, did not respond to a request for comment. The FBI declined to comment. Okay, so
This is the PowerPoint that they send them.
we do have to say the portal is for Meta, right? And
Yes.
It's a Twitter official that said this.
Yep.
I don't have any reason to believe there is not some form of something very similar with Twitter, right? I don't have any evidence of that. I absolutely assume that there is some form of direct communication for the government to send Twitter or alert them to a specific piece of content that they would like to be taken a look at.
Yep.
I would bet anything on it, right? You
yeah.
may not have a portal that's publicly accessible like this one was for Facebook because they're stupid assholes, but I guarantee that it's there. And if
Yep.
they're not, they're still lying because, like you said, we'll get into later in the article, they're still actively meeting, creating entire work groups with the federal government and different DHS facets and assets so they can help them decide what they should and shouldn't be looking at and should and shouldn't be taken down.
Yep.
Right?
I mean, when you're having monthly meetings,
Monthly meetings.
that's all you got to do.
Yeah. So I want to make one of my first points here, right? The level of collusion at play is not only unconstitutional, but deeply subversive and authoritarian in nature. What does it say about the individuals working for tech companies that they were willing to take these steps to help increase the control that their government has on its fellow citizens? Right? I would also be willing to bet that they believe that Donald Trump is an authoritarian. Right?
Yep.
They're probably saying that same shit to their families right now. Donald Trump's an authoritarian. While you are actively helping grow the authoritarian state in your day job before Elon Musk fired you. You are a piece of garbage. You are a piece of garbage.
Yes.
Right?
Because in their opinion, authoritarianism is only bad when it's authoritarianism that you don't agree with.
Yes.
That's, because, I mean, there's no way to say Donald Trump is not an authoritarian. He
Certainly.
is, 100%.
Certainly.
So are they.
Yes.
All of them are.
So is the federal government as it exists now. This is an authoritarian regime.
Yes.
And it, as evidenced by the fact that they are working to try and actively, almost single-handedly, choose what people can and cannot share on the internet.
Yeah. That's
right?
a whole nother level.
If they could, they would. They know, and I know that
because they are.
They tried to make a board of misinformation and disinformation.
Yes.
And America said, wait. That sounds an awful like the administration of truth, right? Sounds an awful like
1984.
Yeah. Isn't that weird? And they said, that's crazy. We would never do anything like that.
Yeah.
We would never
we're
try to
definitely
subvert people's
not
free
doing
speech.
it.
We're done.
No.
We'll put it on hold, right? We know that because they told you that they wanted to do that. What they were doing was no longer good enough for them, so they're going to take another step. We're just going to have a direct hand in it.
Yep.
We're going to have a direct hand in it. We don't need the backdoor portal. We don't need these backdoor meetings. We don't need any of this shit anymore.
Yep.
You can have them still.
We have a public agency now.
Yeah, you can have them still. Send one of those people from those meetings over to us. We'll talk to them. We'll decide what we're going to do from that level, right?
Yeah, and they get into it.
We know that's happening.
They get into it later in the article, but they already have the agency that does that exact same thing.
Yes.
They just, when they tried to make a new public one, there was pushback, so they got rid of the public one. It's still there. It's still happening. They still have the direct hand. It's just, it's behind the curtain now.
Yes.
Still.
The last thing I want to say about this particular thing, the direct portal is about as dark as it gets. It's literally a direct line from the government for them to be able to request that censorship take place.
Yeah.
That's literally what that is, right? That's actually, by definition, what that is. It's a direct portal for us to request that an action is taken on a piece of information, right?
But what if... No, go ahead.
In no world, it's a very easy point. In no world should the government have a hand in regulating speech outside of limitations set in the Constitution and the subsequent rulings.
There you
right?
go. That answers it.
In no world.
I was going to say, because what if it's... an act. What if it's an active piece of illegal speech?
Yeah, I mean, if you're actively tweeting threats to somebody, you can't do that. You're not allowed to threaten people.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
If it's a beheading video,
can't do that. We don't share that information here, right? There's also, we'll get into it like a little bit later. There are the worst thing about it. Maybe not the worst. One of the more striking aspects of this is the actual use and viability of a program like this, right? They talk about it a little bit later. Like the removal of ISIS accounts. That's not a terrible idea. You know what I'm saying? You have accounts that are actively trying to recruit people in other nations to join ISIS and travel to the Middle East so they can fight in a holy war that they would have no fucking idea about if they weren't on Twitter. Probably not a bad idea. Those people don't really need to be here, right? You're trying to convince regular fucking Westerners and shit to buy into Sharia law and come over and fight for a terrorist organization. Probably don't need that on the platform, right? I feel comfortable ceding that ground that, listen, if you want to take down fucking ISIS accounts, I'm fine with that.
as a private company, 100%.
I'm fine with that. You know, I'm not going to say, I'm not going to say that it's not at its core violating someone's free speech. Certainly it is. We're talking about...
But let's be real here.
But let's be real here. I'm willing to cede that ground of you taking some things down because that has no net benefit to America. We know that's happening, right? I know that's there. I know people are being beheaded. I know ISIS exists. I know that they're trying to recruit people in other countries. I don't need to run across it on Twitter to know that it's real, right?
Yeah.
So that's like one of the worst parts about it is that there are actual legitimate uses for something like this. We're just so far past that it's not even almost worth mentioning anymore because that's not what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like it was something like
Give an inch, take a
2016
mile.
or 2008 when they were doing that ISIS shit. You know, it's like during Obama. So it's barely even relevant anymore to bring it up, even though that's the
True.
core, of what they were doing. Really great. Almost not relevant to even discuss anymore.
Yeah.
So let's continue here. DHS's mission to fight disinformation stemming from concerns around Russian influence in the 2016 presidential election began taking shape during the 2020 election and over efforts to shape discussions around vaccine policy during the coronavirus pandemic. So we're really concerned about Russian disinformation. It's just going to take us like 4 years to get it off the ground, and we're going to be covering a completely different topic. But we're really concerned about it.
The most safe and secure election ever.
Yeah, 100%. Documents collected by The Intercept from a variety of sources, including current officials and publicly available reports, reveal the evolution of more active measures by DHS. According to a draft copy of DHS's Quadrennial Homeland Security Review, DHS's capstone report outlining the department's strategy and priorities in the coming years. The department plans to target, quote, inaccurate information on a wide range of topics, including the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic and the efficacy of COVID-19 vaccines, racial justice, U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, and the nature of U.S. support in the Ukraine. Okay, I'm
Racial
say
justice.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different topics. We've covered at least 4 of those deeply.
Yep.
We talked about George Floyd and all that type of shit back in the day, but that's different from, I think, what they're describing here, this racial justice shit, because I think what they're talking about is more of this, the Stacey Abrams tilt, where 3 days before the midterms she's like, there's active attempts to what do they call that, like making it harder for someone to vote,
Voter suppression.
Active attempts for people to voter suppress and give misinformation to black males, specifically black males. What's her Keisha Lance Bottoms? She's saying that she's in her house seeing her kids being delivered false information, specifically because they're black. Really? That's the claim you want to make? That's what you want to claim? Is that just because you have black kids, they are specifically being given misinformation? Just them? Only them? Really?
How do they know?
That's retarded.
Yeah.
That's a ridiculous thing to say.
Yes,
That's
it is.
literal retarded thinking. That doesn't make any sense. That's delayed thinking that only one group would be. Historically, yes. There have been individual voter suppression efforts towards black people.
Yep.
1,000%. We're talking about fucking 2020 now. We're talking about 2020. There are absolutely some people still motivated by race in America. Of course.
Yeah.
Don't be ridiculous. That's a
gonna be a
ludicrous
thing.
thing to think that there wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Everyone is an individual person. There absolutely is. So to say that there isn't one government official who is doing something to try and suppress the black male vote because of his racism, that's probably not correct, right? There's almost definitely someone doing that. I'm not going to say that isn't a thing. To say that it's widespread across the country, we're trying to actively give misinformation, disinformation to black males so they don't know who to vote for?
Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Well, and also that completely misunderstands how these platforms work, because at that point you're talking about a systemic platform issue. These platforms are not doing that.
No.
Because, they're algorithms created by the platforms themselves, and that's how that would work. Then they are actively, definitely not doing that.
Yeah.
I don't know how you square that corner.
So let's talk about these topics for just a second, right? The origin of the COVID-19 pandemic. We have been talking
The lab leak thing, man.
probably...
You got kicked off of all the platforms for even mentioning that at the beginning.
I know for certain when we did our initial COVID live stream, we said there is a possibility, probably a good possibility, that it came from a lab because of the way that it worked out.
Yeah.
I don't know. At the time, we said it definitely did that, but along the way, we said this is almost definitely the way they go.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really seem to be any way to deny that, right? It took probably until about 6 weeks ago till the United States government was like, yeah, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Probably.
Yeah.
Right? The efficacy of the COVID-19 vaccines. We sat on here for as long as we could, saying as much as we could legally, covering things of like, probably not a good idea, probably doesn't seem like it works very well, all this type of shit. Now that we have these studies, Pfizer's like, we actually didn't test whether or not it stops you from giving it to the people.
Like at
We said,
all.
we don't know.
Like we didn't do that
we
at
just
all.
didn't even try that.
Yeah.
We have all these numbers. We have the reality now of all of these statistics that have been adjusted for inflation, adjusted for all the things, right? We know now all this stuff, but it took, again, until about 6 weeks ago until it was okay, and you wouldn't be actively removed from a platform for saying those things, right? Who was it that was lying about It's the government.
It was the government.
It was the government, right?
Oh.
It's the same thing about
The President of the United
origins
States
of the COVID-19
actively
pandemic.
spreading misinformation, disinformation.
See, the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. I sat here for close to 2 hours and did a direct comparison between the withdrawal from Vietnam and the withdrawal from Afghanistan. Draw some pretty striking comparisons between the two, in my personal
including
opinion.
literal helicopters on top of embassy roofs.
Isn't that interesting? So,
The only thing that we didn't have in Vietnam that we did have in Afghanistan was the locals clinging to the landing gear of planes as they took off.
right. Instead, they climbed up the outside of the Vietnam embassy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So we talked about that. Again, the United States government lied about that. That's who it was the government again. The nature of U.S. support for Ukraine. See, we said the
Zeke.
first day that we knew we are in part 2, Zeke. The first day that we knew this was happening, the first day that we talked about this here, I said there are United States boots on the ground there. I don't care what
Yep.
anybody says. I don't care. I don't care what anybody says. That's not true. It's a lie. Last time we were here, what did we talk about?
The boots on the
Boots on the
ground.
ground. Who's lying about it? It's the government, right? Isn't that so interesting that all 4 of these things that we've covered in depth on this show, we were not lying about,
No.
right? Even though we've been actively suppressed, right? Can't prove that. Can't prove it. In my personal opinion, we've been actively suppressed by Meta specifically. Twitter is neither here nor there. We were not lying about it, right? We were acting based off of not only the best information that we had, but also our gut instincts as far as the Vietnam thing, as far as the boots on the ground.
Yeah.
So I was unwilling to even consider another alternative because it's such a ridiculous idea, because it's so patently ridiculous.
This would be the first time in history that we don't? Okay.
Because it would be so patently fucking ridiculous for that to be true.
Yes.
Wasn't even willing to consider it. Was so convinced I didn't even look it up
Yeah.
until it was, oh, what's a topic? Oh, 2 seconds. Oh, so there are boots on the ground there.
I'm sorry I used my active critical thinking skills
Right.
to make an educated opinion on something.
Right. When you
It turned out to be
act
right.
as an individual, you act with agency,
Mm-hmm.
you act with responsibility, you act with integrity, you will be removed.
Yes.
These are not things that we do here. We don't do that here anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You are to accept the party line, wipe your chin, and say thank you. Those are the things that you're allowed to do here. That is all. That's insanity. We now are being blamed, right? We're going to reread this paragraph now. According to a draft of the DHS's Quadrennial Homeland Security Review, DHS's capstone report outlining the department's strategy and priorities in the coming years, the department plans to target inaccurate information on a wide range of topics, including the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic, which we've known the truth of for some time now, the efficacy of the COVID-19 vaccines, which we have known the truth of for some time now, racial justice, I don't know, U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, which we've known the truth of for some time now, and the nature of U.S. support for Ukraine, which we have known the truth of for some time now. Oh, since fucking Eisenhower was leaving office, we've known since then, since before this was even a blink in the eye of anybody who was even alive now, we've known since then. Since that guy who was the president, who also was, I don't know, a general in the United States military, right? He just happened to be both of those things. And he's saying, listen, before I go, dear God,
Please stop this.
please be weary of the military industrial complex, right? That's literally the last speech that he's giving is watch out for this shit that I just spent my entire life running. Watch out. Dear God, watch out. Said, fuck that guy. He's an idiot.
He's not real.
He doesn't know. This isn't World War II. This is real now. This is Vietnam. This is different. It's different.
It's different.
It's different now. This is Raytheon. This isn't just the United States government. We're not just taking over people's factories, making stuff. This is Raytheon. This free market. They're doing their own thing.
Yeah, it's Boeing.
You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Ike.
Ike?
Get the fuck out of here. What are we talking about, guys? What are we talking about? That's right. So you know I'm an OG. You know that his name is Ike.
Exactly.
Well, he went by Ike, but
You guys were homies. I mean, you're old enough.
y'all know
Jesus.
what it is. My soul, my soul, and
Your soul came from the 40s, bro.
My soul's one of the guys standing behind Eisenhower.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, like, if you were a Buddhist, I'd be like, no, you've been reborn. Oh, important note here. This is all centering around DHS, right?
Yes, Department of Homeland Security,
Which was created underneath.
George Bush, in the wake of 9/11.
Interesting. Patriot Act.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So the
One might say
original-
it was literally weaponized. The minute Dick Cheney was able to do it, he's like, let's do it. And now we're into it.
This is, I'm glad you set up that, so it's perfect for my next point. This is a perfect example of the way government grows naturally as a side effect of itself.
Yes.
Right? DHS still claims to focus mainly on counterterrorism to keep the homeland safe, but the security of our homeland is placed in great danger by disinformation and misinformation. That's their claim now, right? And it's not the terrorists that we just walked away from, right? It's not Afghanistan where the Taliban is now not letting little girls go to school. Like, who was it that said that? Fucking everyone besides the government, right? Fucking everybody besides the government who say you probably shouldn't do that. They're not going to let those girls go to school.
You keep getting me. I'm like, it was the government.
That's right, it was the government.
And who lied about? It was the government.
The government. That's I
Wow.
forget, man. I keep forgetting that it was Joe Biden that said we trust the Taliban is going to let these girls go to school. Right now that the Taliban is saying, just in Kabul, we're not going to let them go to school. It's not a bit. It's just for right now. There's just a lot of craziness going on in Kabul. We just can't have little girls going to school, right? It's really not safe for the nation, for small girls to be receiving a rudimentary education. It's very dangerous, right?
Can't do that.
Whatever you say, Dwight Schrute. Fucking. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Go back to your fucking beet farm.
Do you know what I'm talking about? There is an episode when a little girl asks him to buy cookies for the Girl Scouts, and he says, "I don't really know. I don't really believe in teaching girls independence and leadership skills."
Fucking The Office is never gonna die. It is eternally amazing.
All right.
Once we got out of the hands of the British, it became good.
Yeah. So let's see here. The challenge, let's keep going. The challenge is particularly acute in marginalized communities, the report states, which are often the target of false or misleading information, such as false information on voting procedures targeting people of color. Also, people on the left could just be honest. Right?
Good.
Because there is an immense amount of lies that come from people on the left of, black people are too fucking dumb to find out how to get an ID, right? And black people don't drive, and they can't figure all these things. They can't read. They can't do this shit.
No.
What do you mean? It's racist for you to expect someone to be able to get a fucking ID, even though you need an ID to, I don't know, get government documents, to do anything that requires for me to validate your personality. You have to have some form of identification, right?
Yes.
It's illegal past the age of 16 to not have identification on you. Isn't that interesting? It's illegal. Right? We don't want to put you more in line with the law by giving you identification.
It's illegal?
Yes.
I did not know that.
You're over the age. I don't think that you'll get it's a crime. You know what I'm saying? But the regulation is past the point that you can obtain an ID. You're required to have a legal identification on you in case something happens, that you can prove your identity with the police.
No, I mean, that makes sense, yeah.
Yes.
Because when you think, are you a citizen?
And at 16, you have more agency because you can drive and stuff like that. You're less likely to be with your parents, things like that. If you're 15 and under, you're almost definitely going to be with your parents if you're out in public.
Yeah.
So, the inclusion of the 2021 U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan is particularly noteworthy, given that House Republicans, should they take the majority in the midterms, have vowed to investigate, quote, "This makes Benghazi look like a much smaller issue."
Fact check true. DHS is probably the most useless department we are spending money on. Case in point, the man that attacked Paul Pelosi with the hammer somehow managed to slip through their security, even though they have 24/7 security. What up, Zeke?
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, that's a part 4 topic, by the way.
Isn't that
We'll talk
interesting?
about that.
Because I just bought a house, right? I know that I have $1,000 worth of security cameras on order, right? I'm not the Speaker of the House. You would think, especially if your house is in a place like California with so much goddamn crime all over the place, you might have some security that's going to catch some things, right? Even a Ring doorbell with a battery fed that's on a 2-second delay, so maybe we can't see your face. We can see, there's a person just walked in my yard, right? That might be beneficial.
Maybe.
I happen to know that the Ring sends a notification to your fucking phone.
I mean,
So
one of your 3 government phones, probably.
yeah, so the phone that you're able to go to the bathroom and place a phone call on, that same one you have in your hand, the Ring doorbell would actually send a notification to that phone so you can see that there's someone in your house.
But I'm an old, so I keep my phone in another room when I go to bed.
Until you're in an altercation with someone with a hammer.
I can't. We gotta wait. We gotta wait.
I don't, what are
we
we
gotta
talking
wait.
about?
We gotta
what
wait.
are we talking about?
We gotta wait on that one because there's so much.
Yes. How disinformation is defined by the government has not yet been clearly articulated, and the inherently subjective nature of what constitutes disinformation provides a broad opening for DHS officials to make politically motivated determinations about what constitutes dangerous speech. This is a really good example.
Yeah.
When COVID was first going on, I shared an article about how the strain and all the stuff was almost definitely from a bat, right? Almost definitely from a bat. I don't remember. It was like a very legitimate source that I had shared this information from. It got, I don't think it got removed from Facebook, but it was covered up and it was fact-checked as false because the DNA could also potentially have come from a pangolin.
That's right.
Right? It's not...
The entire world learned about pangolins that day.
Not that it's potentially false because it could also be from a pangolin, but it's completely false because it could also come from a pangolin.
Hey, an independent fact checker verified,
Yeah,
okay?
so it's not relevant that it's from an animal, right? That's not relevant. It matters more that I said that it was the wrong animal.
Yeah.
Who gives a fuck? Did you have the animal in a cage in your lab? Then I don't care what type of animal it is.
It's misinformation.
I don't care what kind of animal it is. Does it have scales or does it have wings? I don't care. It doesn't matter to me what the biological makeup of that animal is. Did you use it to make a virus that killed millions of people or that helped them die? Did you do that?
Maybe.
Why? So it doesn't really matter to me what kind of animal you used.
I think it's way more likely that it came from a wet market next door to a viral research lab.
The only level 4 in that area, right?
I think it's the only. It was like one of 2 around the globe. But yeah, I think it's much more likely that it came from a wet market next door to that lab.
Yeah, Contagion style.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh,
it's
no,
such
it's
a good movie.
so good.
Such a good movie.
So good.
Super sad Gwyneth Paltrow died so early, but I mean, I'm sure she had her jade egg in.
She definitely has a jade egg in. Definitely sporting the jade egg. I'll never forget.
Actually, she probably didn't, which is why she died.
Yeah. I'll never forget. I love my sister-in-law so much. I'm not talking shit about her. She's a perfect, wonderful human being. I asked her once, way before I was even closed on the train with all this crystal shit, and it was right even before Jordan really was on the train with it. It was really just Aaron at the time, and I found out about the jade egg thing, and I asked Aaron, I said, would you put a jade egg in your vagina? And her response said, well, it depends on the energy of the jade. I said, that is the best answer you could have given me. That is beautiful. It depends on the energy of the jade.
100%. I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna come back with something you're gonna appreciate. But
okay,
read on, brother.
Yes. Okay. DHS justifies these goals, which have expanded far beyond its original purview on foreign threats to encompass disinformation originating domestically, by claiming that terrorist threats can be, quote, exacerbated by misinformation and disinformation spread online. But the laudable goal of protecting Americans from danger has been used to conceal political maneuvering. In 2004, for instance, DHS officials faced pressure from the George W. Bush administration to heighten the national threat level for terrorism in a bid to influence voters prior to the election, according to the former DHS Secretary Tom Rich. He was the secretary at the time. Telling you what this happened. U.S. officials have routinely lied about an array of issues, from the causes of its wars in Vietnam and Iraq. We've talked about that endlessly on this show. Endlessly, specifically those two. And the role of the National Institutes of Health in funding the Wuhan Institute of Virology coronavirus research. Isn't that interesting? As this article points out, right? Let's read a little bit more, and then we'll get into it. The track record has not yet prevented the U.S. government from seeking to become arbiters of what constitutes false or dangerous information on inherently political topics. Earlier this year, Republican Governor Ron DeSantis signed a law known by supporters as the Stop Woke Act, which bans private employers from workplace trainings asserting an individual's moral character is privileged or oppressed based on his or her race, color, sex, or national origin. The law, critics charged, amounted to a broad suppression of speech deemed offensive. The Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, or FIRE, has since filed a lawsuit against DeSantis alleging unconstitutional censorship. A federally Federal judge temporarily blocked parts of the Stop Woke Act, ruling that the law had violated workers' First Amendment rights. Florida's legislators may well find plaintiff speech repugnant, but under our constitutional scheme, the remedy for repugnant speech is more speech, not enforced silence, wrote Judge Mark Walker in a colorful opinion castigating the law. The extent to which DHS initiatives affect Americans' daily social feeds is unclear. During the 2020 election, the government flagged numerous posts as suspicious, many of which were taken down. Documents cited in the Missouri Attorney General's lawsuits disclosed. In a 2021 report by the Election Integrity Partnership at the Stanford University found that in nearly 4,800 flagged items, technology platforms took action on 35%, either removing, labeling, or soft blocking speech, meaning the users were only able to view content after bypassing a warning screen. The research was done in consultation with CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. This agency, as we'll go into a little bit later, was enacted by Donald Trump, led by Kirstjen Nielsen, and then Chad Wolf when Kirstjen Nielsen went down. Mm-hmm. You got a jade roller going on?
Jade roller.
So let's see here. I had a point that I wanted to. As this article points out, the U.S. government is one of the greatest purveyors of misinformation on the planet. Even within this story, there are lies being revealed, right? And that's the ones we talked about earlier when they say, we don't cover, and we don't talk to anybody about the stuff that we do.
Yeah.
The people at the head of our government are not better than you. In fact, they're almost definitely worse than you because they have sold pieces of their soul to gain power and influence over other people, right? The focus, I'm glad you like that.
That's fact check
They're
true.
almost definitely worse than you. Almost definitely.
Almost definitely.
Yeah, almost definitely. The focus on COVID is something we should pay particular attention to because of the immense amount of lies and gaslighting that came from the federal government. The things they had to go back on and were wrong about completely remove them from any high ground, moral or otherwise. Mm-hmm. They have zero stance, zero leg to stand on when they're talking about mis and disinformation about the COVID-19 pandemic.
Because they were the number one purveyor of it.
For 2.5 years, you lied to everybody with our own tax dollars and told us to say thank you. No, this is not how this should work. This is not how this should be allowed to work. We can't have this type of shit where they're deciding what is and is not accurate information while they're lying to you actively.
Well, and it would be one thing, too, if the lies were innocent, if you will. But they weren't. They were specifically designed to ensconce the power of the uniparty over the citizens and coerce them into obedience.
There is no
complicity. You must comply.
Yes.
And they got they proved that they can get a vast majority of the population to comply with their lies. At that point, it was proven at that point. Then they could just do whatever they want at that point. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. Whatever it is, they can force a certain percentage of the population to comply with whatever they want them to do.
There is no world in which Joe Biden is a markedly better person than George Bush, right? These are the same thing. Every American president of my lifetime, certainly of my lifetime, is a war criminal. Every single one. They're all the same level of shitty.
And you
right?
can be real loose with your war crime definition, but they all hit it.
The same thing they covered just earlier in this article, where they're talking about the Bush administration using the terrorist designations to influence the election. What do you think we just watched? What do you think just happened?
Yeah.
Right? When they're doing all this shit.
Joe Biden dropped a fucking drone bomb on a completely innocent family during the pullout of Afghanistan.
On children, right?
Multiple. An entire family.
13 Marines died at the gate. The fucking gal that I went to school with who led that article was insane.
Yes.
Shout out to Leilani Rodriguez. I mean, absolutely incredible. Hero, fucking hero, 100%. Right? She's the same age as I am. We graduated together. She's 27 years old, 25 at the time.
Yeah, markedly better than you.
Markedly better. I know. I'll own it. She can do more pull-ups than me, and
badass.
I definitely could not have responded to that the way that she did. I will. She is better than me. I'm not gonna.
She's better than me too.
Yeah,
it's fine.
I don't care. I don't. Slide aside. Crowder did this whole thing this week of like women shouldn't serve in combat roles. That was his latest.
Oh yeah, that was his latest excuse for not doing a live show. Yeah.
Yeah. So all I could think. And you listen to it, that's not, he's making a point that's not exactly that, but that's how he's going to gather people in, So they have to do half as many pull-ups, do all this fucking stuff. I don't care what Steven Crowder does. I would put money that Leilani Rodriguez will beat the shit out of Steven Crowder in any fucking competition.
Yes.
I don't give a fuck. I don't care about any of that type of shit.
Yes.
I don't care what the fuck he's saying. That's crazy. It's a crazy that base take that he did to try and bait people in is so retarded. It's so patently ridiculous for someone who shows himself only ever shooting a fucking 1911 style slide all metal handgun, never a fucking AR, never moving, always at a static range. Doesn't fucking know what he's talking about. He's only worn a play carrier 5 times on his own show because someone paid him to do it.
And whether it was
Steven Crowder is not pro 2A, he is pro gun. He is not pro 2A. He is not even just pro America. He is pro American government. That is who he is. If the government operated how he wanted, he would be in favor of it. That's what he would want.
He's Canadian. Right? What do you expect?
That guy's not real.
No, he wears a costume all the time.
We watch him all the time because it's a great window into what conservative youth, how they're viewing things.
Because that's what they're getting.
That dude's not real.
At least Dave Landau is hilarious.
Is not a fucking... That guy's not a patriot. That guy's not fucking real. Steven Crowder is not fucking real.
He's a neocon.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
He's just he's not even a younger version.
Libertarians can't work because big business and the government are working together. You're a goddamn idiot. You are a goddamn idiot.
Did you watch Dave Smith's takedown of Steven Crowder bullshitting on libertarianism?
Goddamn idiot.
Oh, yeah. He's not... He bothers me a lot. But also Dave Landau is hilarious. I get a lot of laughs from that show, it is worth watching. It's way more.
But know what you're watching.
Exactly, it's way more worth watching than Pod Save America is.
Yes,
he's way more,
and he's good at what he's doing.
Yeah.
So
he's a good entertainer.
It's easy for him to convince you the opposite of what we just said. That he is a patriot, that he is pro 2A, that he is all these things. He is not.
Nope.
Steven Crowder is pro gun. If there's people that he doesn't like to have guns, he doesn't want them to have guns.
Yes.
Right? There are people who have broken these gun laws, he wants them in jail. There are people who are illegally obtaining firearms, he wants them in jail. That's not fucking pro 2A, bitch. You're pro gun.
That's right.
You're pro gun. You like guns. That's fine. You are pro 2A. You don't fucking burn like this.
Yeah. He's
don't
pro
lie.
gun and pro government.
Yeah, that's fine. But don't say that. You don't fucking burn. You don't fucking burn, dog. You don't know. Get out of here. You don't
burn.
No, you do not know.
God, I'm so glad you're so young. I learned all these new terms.
That's more like a chef's term than anything. You don't burn. You're not in the kitchen. You don't burn. You don't fucking. Oh. Yeah, that's a chef thing. It's definitely
that's bad.
Taken from that.
Yeah, I didn't know
it's
that.
Like burn yourself. You're not like burn food. Yeah, you don't burn. Yeah.
You know, if you're in the professional culinary industry, you could be a burner or a cutter. It's two different things. Because you either fuck up and you burn yourself all the time, or you fuck up and you cut yourself all the time.
Yeah.
I'm a burner. I don't cut myself. I'm a burner. I got fucking scars all over me. That's a fucking oven burn right there.
Jordan's got a pretty sweet one from the oven too.
It's because you pull out a fucking tray and it's hot and you're like doing a move or whatever, and then it fucking oh shit, and then you can't let go.
In the middle of the tray,
yeah, because you're committed. You can't let go, so you just take the pain and then you deal with, and it's a cool scar afterwards.
I've moved a lot of food with a bare hand, hot food that I've just picked it up and you're like, I'm halfway, I cannot stop.
Yeah. Well, after a number of years, you get enough calluses and shit going on that you can they're not oven mitts, but they might as well be.
The chef's hands,
100%. You're grabbing it with like a loose fucking cloth.
Right.
You're like, oh, yeah. It's only 425 degrees. It's not a big deal.
Ellis would always talk about that, doing the TP stuff, too, working on the heat presses.
Oh, yeah.
You get your chef's hands in no time.
100%. Yeah.
That shit's true, too. When you're doing the special stuff that Brian does, all that stuff. Right.
Oh, that's hot as fuck.
Yeah.
I remember that.
And I remember Casey doing that for a while and then doing horse stuff and coming back and doing it again. He's like, my hands burn. Like, they're tough from the callus from horse stuff, but they're not burned tough.
That's right.
That's a whole different deal.
You got to kill all them nerve endings, bro.
Yeah. That's such a specific thing. No one will know what we're talking about. Okay, let's keep reading. Prior to the 2020 election, tech companies including Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Discord, Wikipedia, Microsoft, LinkedIn, and Verizon Media met on a monthly basis with the FBI, CISA, and other government representatives.
What is Verizon Media, by the way?
Well, Verizon does internet and stuff, so they probably have...
From an IP fucking, what do you call that? ISP standpoint, internet service provider standpoint?
Yeah.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the same as Xfinity.
Because they're just hitting all the angles. They're hitting all the angles, not just the platforms or the apps, but also the people that provide that. And then with J.P. Morgan Chase and shit, the people that finance them.
Yes. Yeah, and that's why, exactly, it's a full circle.
Yeah.
Anybody. Remind me to tell you during part 4, I went to Xfinity yesterday, and I gave that bitch the business because she irritated the piss out of me. I was there for 5 minutes, gave her the business, got the fuck out. It was horrible. It was horrible.
Read your fucking book.
Yeah, it was not good. It was not good. She was just talking to me in circles and just saying dumb shit.
Boo.
I asked her the same question 5 times, and she didn't answer it. It was not good.
Boo.
Yeah, I'll tell you about it.
Well, she works for Comcast.
She works, and she thought she was just so fucking smart. According to NBC News, the meetings were part of an initiative still ongoing between the private sector and government to discuss how firms would handle misinformation during the election. So we just had an election, just had one, just
Safest and most secure since last one.
That's right, since the last one. This is still ongoing. This is still happening. So when we're talking about the information that we're not seeing, right, or the videos that we're not seeing that could, I'm not.
May or may not.
May or may not. That's what I'm saying could. I'm not throwing it out there. I'm not saying that it is. I don't have... Part of the reason I asked you that, let me ask you this, is because I'm having to fight off my own fatalism and
That's healthy.
I'm having to. And the lack of faith I have in the election system in and of itself because of the issues that I know exist in it, to tell myself I don't have new information that's telling me that this election is fucked. I know what I know, and so I can't ignore that, and I can't let go of that, but I'm not seeing the swaths of videos and sus shit that I saw last time.
Yeah.
So I have to keep that in the front of my mind, because I'm fighting my own fatalism with that, because I just have such little faith in the infrastructure, in the system, in the everything that goes into it.
Just do yourself a favor and just fully give up on democracy. It's fine.
I have. That's what my article is about this month. It's not good.
Ooh.
I'm telling
fatalistic indeed.
you, as I was voting last month, Deborah knows I wrote about Hunter Biden. I wrote about Hunter Biden and his deal with guns, right? So
and I will arguably one of the best Hunter Biden articles I've seen from any outlet anywhere.
Out here.
Word.
Fucking out here.
Congratulations,
Thank
buddy.
you very much, sir.
That was
Go there.
noteworthy.
Go to the Patreon, subscribe, read that article that I just put out last month. Come on the last day of the month. Go there, and if you go $5, gets you access to all of the newsletters. Every single one of them. So, Deborah, even though you only get them for like 2 months or whatever, you can read all of them. Go there. Read the newsletters. Last one was on Hunter Biden. This one is going to be about voting for me, right? It's because we had the whole deal about voting. Talking about Joseph, like, we got to vote. We got to try. We can blah, 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 all the stuff, right? We're trying to do the right thing.
I mean, me as an anarchist shill, I still did that too.
Filling out my ballot, shaking my fucking head because I'm just like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this.
No.
I don't trust these people. I don't trust that this matters. I don't trust that this means anything. I don't trust that anybody's even opening this and reading it. I don't trust anything about this. I don't trust these people. I'm having to vote in people that I don't even know what their values are because I need something new. Because I know the people who are in there now are pieces of garbage and they have to go. It's not because I love Republicans. It's because we only have Democrats here and I need something new because it's such trash. Because I know these people are shills and they're pieces of garbage and I need something new.
Yeah. Well,
So
don't
I'm
worry
really-
because none of them went anywhere.
None of them vote anyway. So none of them won anyway. It doesn't even matter. So, but that's what my article is about this month, is about voting and that struggle and why we're doing it. So to your point, I'm feeling it. I'm fighting the fatalism, man. That's what this episode is called. I'm putting it at the top right now.
Fighting the fatalism.
Fighting the fatalism.
Episode 137.
Episode 137. Okay.
Dude, we need to actually do that and call them that.
On the website, they have names. On the website, they have names. So if you go to the website and you look at the postings, they all have names on there.
What's the website?
saltofstreets.com.
Boom.
Go to saltofstreets.com. You can go there, and all of the episodes have names. On our podcast page, they don't, just because they're numbered and dated, and that would be super duper long. Like you wouldn't see the title if I put it there because of the date. So, but if you go to, if you type in saltofstreets.com in the address bar, it will take you straight
I
there.
did it in the search.
Yeah, go to the address bar. There you go.
Boom.
Boom. Didn't she win? That was last episode. Didn't she win?
Didn't she win?
Yeah.
Every day is Jan 6. We call them terrorists. The people are the answer.
There you go.
Boom. Look
Good
at
enough
that.
for me, featuring Jake Lyons. Good enough for me. That's good enough for me. They got good names. There are you. They got good names. They got good names.
That's an episode. That is an episode.
Do the descriptions of the names all by myself. So, they're good.
You get a gold star today.
Thank you very much. The stepped-up counter-disinformation effort began in 2018, following high-profile hacking incidents of U.S. firms, when Congress passed and President Donald Trump signed the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency Act, forming a new wing of DHS devoted to protecting critical national infrastructure. An August 2022 report from the DHS Office of Inspector General sketches the rapidly accelerating move toward policing disinformation. That's what the report was. The Inspector General, the DHS Office of Inspector General. Okay, so let's break that down just for a second. The DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, their office, the Inspector General, his role is to investigate internal affairs within that particular office. So the person who investigates the internal affairs of the DHS is telling you, we are sketching out the rapidly accelerating move toward policing disinformation. What are we doing?
He's like, yep, no, sounds good. Moving on.
Yes, he said that from the outset. CISA boasted of CISA's the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency Act. It's the board, right? From the outset, CISA boasted of an evolved mission to monitor social media discussions while routing disinformation concerns to private sector platforms.
CISA is the information or the government disinformation board, but behind the curtain.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, it's the same deal. It was that's the agency we were talking about earlier.
Because these are the people that are meeting actively with all these different social media groups.
Yeah.
They're the ones that had this enormous meeting with all these different groups prior to 2020, prior to the election, right?
Safest and most secure.
So
What else would we do without them?
So dark. It's so dark. Excuse me. In 2018, then DHS Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen, shout out Kirstjen Nielsen, not in a good way, just shout out. We talked about her a lot.
Yeah, we
she
did.
was not created the countering foreign. She had a hell of a job, that woman.
Yes.
You could tell every time she talks, she's like, I do not want to be here.
Yeah,
I do not
exactly.
want to be doing this. But Orange Man picked me for this job, and I was definitely not going to say no.
No.
Rough business.
I'm taking the bag and I'm going.
That's why she stepped down. There was something that happened that she stepped down for, and that's why Chad Wolf was out there.
Yeah.
There was something that she was like, I gotta get out of here. But I wish I could remember.
And it wasn't Jan 6.
No, it wasn't Jan 6 before that. Chad Wolf was in way before that. In 2018, the DHS Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen created the Countering Foreign Influence Task Force. Countering Foreign Influence Task Force to respond to election disinformation. If we all remember,
God.
way back in 2016, right, when the Republicans were saying that the election system was good and the Democrats were saying that it was bad.
Yeah.
They were saying it was because the Russians had influenced the election. They carried that shit on
right.
until 2020 was over.
Fucking
and a new
Hill
election-
Dog took that shit all the way to the bank.
all the way.
Hill Dog.
All the way to they impeached the man over it. I know, all the way to the house. All the way to the house.
You can't go any
not the
higher.
house, yeah, it's not good. Not good. So if we remember, right, that's what they were doing at the time. So that's why they were focusing on foreign intelligence.
I
In
love this
2018, DHS created a separate entity called the Foreign Influence and Interference Branch to generate more detailed intelligence about disinformation than the Inspector General report shows. That year, its staff grew to include 15 full and part-time staff dedicated to disinformation analysis.
A whole 15.
Analyzing disinformation. People who are probably making six figures a year or close to it
Oh, easy.
of your tax dollars to decide if what you are saying is or is not true.
Yeah. If you want to be a cog, do cog shit. But if you want to make bank while you're a cog, go work for the government.
That's right. In 2020, the disinformation focus expanded to include COVID-19, according to a Homeland Threat Assessment issued by Acting Secretary Chad Wolf. The apparatus had a dry run during the 2020 election when CISA began working with other members of the U.S. intelligence community. Isn't that great?
Safest and most secure.
Yeah, isn't that great, right?
Thank God CISA was on our side, bro.
The FBI, who is, let's see, what are they doing? They had a whole rand, and they had, I can't continue with it. I can't continue with it because it's so fucking ridiculous. They've had agents in every major national issue for as far back as we can remember. It's not even worth going through individual ones. But
Yeah, all of them.
But the easiest one is like the Gretchen Whitmer thing. Like half of those dudes were FBI informants.
There was 12 people, and 3 of them just got hemmed up. 3
is not to say they were FBI agents. They were not agents. They were FBI informants, people being paid or actually working with the FBI, who had knowledge of this prior to it happening. The FBI is at the root of all this shit. If you take a look at the amount of mass shootings, the amount of school shootings, all this type of stuff, the FBI either had the person on the list or was in contact with them. This backdoor
Boston
collusion
bomber.
with other, it's not good.
All of them.
Not good. But still, we're the good guys.
We're the good guys.
The G-men. We're out here. Yeah, fuck them.
Oh my God.
This apparatus had a dry run during the 2020 election. Office of Intelligence and Analysis personnel intended weekly teleconferences to coordinate intelligence community activities to counter election-related disinformation. So not only are they meeting with them, they're coordinating the way the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, who has access to all of your information, all the things that you're saying, everything going to the internet for, all that type of stuff. They're working actively with them, not only to figure out, but to coordinate how they are to act in accordance with disinformation. According to the IG report, meetings have continued to take place every 2 weeks since the elections.
Ongoing.
Every 2 weeks.
Ongoing.
Emails between DHS officials, Twitter, and the Center for
I wonder
Internal...
if they meet the same day we do the podcast every other week. Every 2 weeks, bro.
funny.
Look at that.
That'd be so
Although they're government, so they don't work Saturdays, I guess.
I don't know. Emails between DHS officials, Twitter, and the Center for Internet Security outline the process for such takedown requests during the period leading up to November 2020. Meeting notes show that tech platforms will be called upon to process reports and provide timely responses to include the removal of reported misinformation from the platform where possible.
So this is how you know, because we talked earlier about that, the meta portal, right?
Right.
And there had to be something along those lines
precursor.
with Twitter.
Yeah.
They're right here.
This is it.
I mean, they have their own version.
And it's just Meta. Think back to all the times that we've seen Mark Zuckerberg testify in front of Congress. He's begging for regulation. He's begging for it. He's asking for it. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with it. Regulate me. Regulate me harder, Daddy, please. I need it. Right? That's what he's saying. Yeah, precisely.
Wipe the chin.
So it doesn't surprise me, nor should it surprise anybody else, that Meta has a portal. They want this. They want this involvement because they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with the personal aspect. I don't know.
I think they just don't want the heat.
I'm sure they don't want the heat. I wouldn't be surprised if Mark Zuckerberg, because to me, I'll own all the heat in the world for this. He seems like a decent guy. Mark Zuckerberg seems like a decent, fairly genuine person who has found himself in a fucked up circumstance that he could not have possibly imagined when he started Facebook, right?
It's like I did it so that we could hook up with girls at college, bro.
I don't remove him from his responsibility for what he's doing because he is doing that, right?
He could have walked away at any point.
1,000%.
Yeah.
I still think deep down he's a decent, genuine guy who is in a fucked up place and has, for some reason, chosen to stay at the helm instead of removing himself for his own moral deals, right?
It's a lot of money.
And
power.
Yeah. So it does not surprise me that guy, it's like, listen, let's just make a portal so they don't even have to email us or call us or anything. They can just submit it, sign in, find the thing that you want, send it to us, and we'll deal with it that way.
Yeah.
Shouldn't surprise any of us. He's asking for regulation. He's fucking begging for it.
Yeah.
Right?
And this is how you get that without the painstaking process of actually developing regulation, which will have coattails that the government doesn't want to do either.
Right.
And so it's a way for them to get around creating regulation as well. Here, let's just give you what you want.
Yes.
And then the heat's off me. You have access, and we can just handle it for you now, and we can all fucking move on from this.
In practice, this often meant state election officials sent examples of potential forms of disinformation to CISA, which would then forward them onto social media companies for a response. Under President Joe Biden, the shifting focus on disinformation has continued. In January 2021, CISA replaced the Counter Foreign Intelligence Task Force with the Misinformation, Disinformation, and Malinformation Team, which was created to promote more flexibility to focus on general MDM, misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation.
Thank God we finally created an acronym for it.
Thank God. By now,
Yeah.
the scope of the effort has expanded beyond disinformation produced by foreign governments to include domestic versions. The MDM team, according to one CISA official quoted in the IG report, counters all types of disinformation to be responsive to current events.
That's dark.
This is a uniparty issue, right? Meaning that it will continue this way regardless of who is president, and they remain unable to argue this circumstantial cooperation if they're having monthly, bi-weekly now, we know, meetings to discuss strategy for the future, and creating under Donald Trump an entirely new wing of DHS and continual wings of DHS, right? So it was under Donald Trump. They've reshaped them since then. This is a uniparty thing. This doesn't. It's just not about Donald Trump. It's not about
Nope.
George Bush. Not about Joe Biden, Barack Obama. It's about all of them. They don't care. It doesn't matter. If you are not pro-government, you don't get to work here.
Yeah.
You don't get to run in these spaces because we don't play that shit here.
That's right.
That's what they're doing. This is a uniparty issue. This is the government. This is not Republican or Democrat. This is
It's all of them.
This is the natural process of growth from the government.
Yes.
Right? From the initial, the Patriot Act, we need to make sure that America is safe. Fucking America! Fuck yeah! That's what the Patriot Act was, right? According to George Bush.
Yeah.
From that to this. This is the natural way of things. This is
Yep.
a natural growth and evolution.
Yep.
This is how government works. This doesn't matter. Because again, in the middle, you had Barack Obama there. You had 8 years of Obama, who was like, oh, this the liberal winner and the king and all the stuff, right? Fucking killing people left and right with drones. Just doing the
Word.
exact same shit. Edward Snowden, Julian Assange, all that shit happened under Donald Trump. Or under Barack Obama. Yes,
Yep.
thank you.
And then did not go away under Trump.
Right. And I was thinking of the Assange thing came to kind of a head during Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Just a slip. Doesn't matter. Jen Easterly, Biden's appointed director of CISA, swiftly made it clear that she would continue to shift resources in the agency. Shift resources. We mean take resources away from other places to this. And that's because lest we forget, like we just said, the DHS was created in response to 9/11.
Yes.
Right? So it's original meaning. Its original doctrine is to protect us from foreign threats and terrorists. Department of Homeland Security.
That's right.
Right? That doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't exist anymore. Even if it does exist, because we just left the fucking Taliban and all those people over in Afghanistan to do what they want. That still exists. They still don't like us. They still fucking hate us. That still exists. We're still fighting ISIS. We're still fighting all these random ass groups all over the place in Yemen, all this stupid bullshit, right?
Oh, yeah.
We're doing all of that right now. Okay? But it doesn't matter anymore. What matters now is the things that you are saying and that they're wrong, that they're false, that they're bad. You don't get to say things like this here. We're going to take our terrorist money and we have to shift it to something. That's why we have domestic violent extremists now. That's why we're giving these classifications, because we don't have any other justification to shift this money.
That's right.
That's why. That's why everyone here, you're all part of the group now. That's why we're all domestic violent extremists. It's because if they don't classify us as that, they can't use the DHS money to come after us.
Yes.
That is why they're doing this. At the time, we're like, what's the possible motivation? You're separating yourself from the rest of the country. This half is going to hate you, because they don't care. They don't care because they're going to lock you up. That's the point. We want to reclassify you because we don't care about you. We're going to lock you up anyway.
Yeah, it's actually an argument for foreign wars at this point, because at least their attention was elsewhere. Now it's like, well, we can't blow up terrorists anymore, so now we're just going to come for you.
One could argue we're in the business of critical infrastructure, and the most critical infrastructure is our cognitive infrastructure. So building that resilience to misinformation and disinformation, I think, is incredibly important. That's why we're not going to tell you how to identify it. That's why we're not going to make it easier to get information. That's why we're not going to do any of that type of shit. We're not going to disseminate our own information of true validity to show you where it's coming from. We're just going to hide it. We're going to hide the bad stuff from you because your little brain can't take it. You can't deal with it. And it's important that our mental infrastructure, cognitive infrastructure, is resilient. It's important.
Yeah.
We don't have any way to train you to be resilient cognitively, so we're just going to hide everything from you.
You can't handle the truth.
No, of course not.
You can't handle the truth.
No, you can't.
I want to yell that so bad.
It's impossible. Said Lisa, speaking at a conference in November 2021. CISA's domain has gradually expanded to encompass more subjects it believes amount to critical infrastructure. Last year, the Intercept reported an existence of a series of DHS field intelligence reports warning of attacks on cell towers, which is tied to conspiracy theorists who believe 5G towers spread COVID-19.
What?
Right, so you know that's ridiculous, but you're still going to invest money in it anyway. One intelligence report pointed out that these conspiracy theories are inciting attacks against the communications infrastructure. Okay. So none of these companies who are building out 5G are government companies. They're all Verizon, T-Mobile, all these different companies, communications companies, right? Mm-hmm. People are attacking your shit. Hire armed guards. Hire armed guards. This is not a government issue. Hire armed guards.
But if I'm Verizon Media, why would I not continue to just work with the government at this point to have them protect me?
literally only makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? Of course. I know.
Government needs to be able to spend money somewhere.
Right.
They might as well do it to protect me, so then I don't have to.
Right. So let's contrast that with all of these small businesses, right? All these small. Seattle's a great example. I went to Seattle last week, walking along the pier, just along the boardwalk. There's one of those. It's like an enormous. It's like a tchotchke store. You know, it's just tourist stuff.
Okay.
I
was like, what
and
the
there's like
fuck
a
is
big
a
bear
tchotchke?
outside or something. There's like a wooden figures and all that stuff.
Yes.
They have a private security guard outside. They hired somebody because so many people are stealing shit, right? So all these companies around the country, in these big cities that are having thousands of millions of dollars worth of merchandise stolen from them, hire private security. That's their answer. That's what they get from the government. It's hire private security. Your DAs are refusing to lock people up because it's not good. It's not good to put people in jail. And it's not, but that's neither here nor there, right? But we're not going to punish people for their crimes. That's really the crux of what's going on. We're not going to punish people for what they've done wrong.
Yeah.
Hire private security. We can't stop them. We're not going to harm anybody. What if they need those items to sell so they can make rent? What are we going to do then, right? Hire your own private security. When it's happening here, when crazy people are shooting at 5G towers, right?
I'm still blown away at
We're
that.
just going to start handing out writing fucking checks. We can't even allow someone to try and withdraw a DA who is actively releasing criminals into their community.
Don't do that.
But we are going to write checks, blank ones, to any of these companies because crazy people are shooting at their cell phone towers.
Well, we'll handle it with pre-crime by tackling MSM or MDM. MDM. We'll hit that on the front end, so that way we don't have to actually pay up for the security at this point, because then we'll just catch them all before anything bad happens. And we'll do that by monitoring everybody's internet traffic, and then we'll be pulling all of the dis, and malinformation off of the internet, so that way nobody will get radicalized. And then boom, then we don't need cops. That's the best way to do that at that point, isn't it? And it does kind of drive me crazy that at the end. I love the fact you're standing all the way over there and I could still hear it. I'm sure the listeners and the viewers greatly appreciate your respect for them and their ears, right?
On the other side of the room, guys.
Oh, but yeah, that's a lot of the stuff. Just kind of points to that idea of it's the faux safetyism. We're going to attack all this stuff before it happens, and that's how we're going to protect you, and we're going to protect your thoughts at that point from becoming harmful.
You can't do it yourself. Personal responsibility is not even an option.
No.
You can't even consider that to be a thing. Let daddy government take care of you.
Yeah.
That's all that we can do.
That's why that's why you don't need guns.
This is how you know that they don't care about you,
Yes.
right? When you care about somebody, you don't. God, the perfect old adage, right? You if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. You teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime, right? If you care about somebody, you don't just give them something. You teach them how to do something. Right?
Oh yeah,
If they care about us, if they cared about us, they would not just be trying to cover our eyes from things. They would be telling you exactly what we just laid out earlier, how to identify something that is not correct, right? How to find a reputable source, how to decide whether or not somebody is someone you should listen to. These are things we would tell you. We would just tell you the truth. We would just give you, hear what they're saying over there. This is the information that we have. This is what we're working off of. This is what we're telling you. Mm-hmm. If they actually cared about you, that's what they would be doing. They don't care about you. They don't care about your brain. They don't care about your future. They don't care about any of that type of shit. They care that you do what they want you to do. So instead of trying to teach you anything, they curate your information and then victimize. No, don't victimize. They curate your information and then make Liz or TikTok a martyr, right? For doing the exact same thing. They're curating different information. It's the exact same thing. Lives of TikTok, the United States government, are the exact same thing as far as curation goes. They want to show you what they want to show you.
Yes.
They have a narrative. One is malicious. One is maybe a little bit less malicious. Okay, you decide which is which.
Well, the major difference there is one's a private citizen and one is the fucking government.
Fucking government. They're the same thing, though. They're doing the exact same thing.
The act itself.
But instead of social information, it's all everything that you about voting.
Yeah.
All the election
or
information.
Anything that they don't want you to know about, or they want you to think a certain way around. It's fucking.
So it wasn't bats, it was pangolins, maybe. That's what
Go
they're doing.
pangolins.
That's what they're doing.
Salt the streets. We will tell you the truth.
We will tell you the truth.
That's another T-shirt.
That's really funny. Okay. CISA has defended its burgeoning social media monitoring authorities, stating that once CISA notified a social media platform of disinformation, the social media platform could independently decide whether to remove or modify the post. But as documents revealed by the Missouri lawsuit show, CISA's goal is to make platforms more responsive to their suggestions. So even though Twitter is saying we actively, we independently decide, CISA is saying, yeah, but we're also trying to make you decide more in line with what we want.
Yes. Yeah. They are pretty much hurting minds. 100%. That's exactly what they're doing. It's thought policing, if you will, is another term for it. It's you're supposed to think a certain way. And so if we only give you this specific information that we deem appropriate, you also have the false sense of making up your own mind at that point, because I'm looking at the information and I'm deciding for myself how I think about it, except for the fact that the information you're allowed to intake is curated by the federal government at that point.
And that's why they use this flowery language, right? Because they know what's going on. They know what they're doing, and they know how horrific it looks, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that's what and they know what the larger implications of it are, and how easy it is to surmise those things. Because it took me about 5 seconds to be like, oh, they could easily apply this to libs of TikTok.
Easy.
Like it takes that 5 seconds, right? They know about all these things, which is why they code it in language about diversity, intellectual infrastructure, and security for the motherland. Because they know what it is, right?
We're not Russians.
But if they tell you, they also know that if you are anywhere near my age or older, they know the way the word terrorism has been ingrained in your brain, because they did that. They are the ones that did the messaging, subliminal messaging for years on television, on cable news. Terrorism, the war on terror, every day, repeatedly, for terrorism to be something that I grew up horrified of. You know what I'm saying? Because it's everywhere. It's all the time, right? That's why they know what that does to you. That's why they shift it from ISIS to domestic violent extremists, right? Look at all these groups that are qualified under this. Look at how terrifying this is. This is all right here at home.
Yeah.
They're not even foreign. This is right here at home.
Domestic violent extremism.
Yes.
But because they've already labeled terrorists as a thing, you can't just be spouting, because they tried domestic terrorism for a long time, right?
Didn't work.
And domestic terrorism only applied to people that look like that, but that are here.
Right.
And they had to come up with a new term for it, because
Pulse nightclub shooting, those things, domestic terrorism. That guy's Brown is definitely a terrorist.
That's because they've already ensconced what terrorism is to the vast populace at that point. So they had to come up with a new term for it, because it can't be, you can't call your neighbor that looks like you, that you see all the time, that you might see at the grocery store or at work or anything. They can't call him a terrorist, because you know what terrorists are, and that's not him, because he's your neighbor. But what he might be is a domestic violent extremist.
Because he's
got a Gadsden flag outside. That is a symbol of hate, and that is a symbol of violence.
Everyone is against domestic violence. Everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Now, we're not just talking about domestic violence. This is extreme domestic violence.
That's right.
Which means that it's outside of their own home.
Well, and because
you're not just beating your wife, you're beating your fucking neighbor's wife.
Exactly. I'm going to say, because domestic violence already has another connotation that's taken at that point, and it's like the people in your house. It's the wives and husbands.
They're not being his wife. He's being your wife.
Exactly.
It's extreme now.
Well, he's going to blow your wife up at the grocery store.
Yeah.
That's what he's going to show up at your kid's school. That's what's going to happen.
Yep.
And that's very successfully done in my hats off to their efficiency on this thing. How long it was less than a year that it took place for them to ensconce the language?
I'm going to say
it was not that long.
Because it was pretty quick after Gen 6 that they were running hard on that DVE thing.
And that was it.
Yeah.
Done.
Oh.
We're not going to finish this article, by the way.
No, that's fine. I only have a couple more points, and we can be done after that pretty much. We posted it in the chat, so if anyone wants to read the entire thing, we'll get the vast majority of it here. Meeting records of the CISA Cybersecurity Advisory Committee and the main subcommittee that handles disinformation. Oh, sorry, let's skip one. In late February, Easterly texted with Matthew Masterson, a representative at Microsoft who formerly worked at CISA. Okay, you heard that. You heard that again. Yep. A representative at Microsoft who formerly worked at CISA.
What did I say?
Now he works for Microsoft.
That's right.
What are we doing here?
Revolving door. This is the military-industrial complex, but this is the the tech version of it.
Right.
Yeah.
That she is trying to, quote, trying to get us in a place where Fed can work with platforms to better understand mis-dis trends so relevant agencies can try to pre-bunk/debunk as useful. Okay, pre-bunk. They're working on a framework created by the Fed to be implemented by companies, so the only government-approved information is let through. The platforms don't want their blood on their hands, which is why Zuckerberg is asking for regulation. So they invite the Fed to take a greater role until they become one of the same. Until they're the same thing, because they're effectively nationalized at this point. I mean, these companies are effectively nationalized. Certainly, their mis and disinformation policies are effectively nationalized.
Which is, I mean, that's the ground rule for how the company operates.
Right.
How the platform operates, I should say. And that's exactly what Kyle Kalinske wants. He just wants it to be out in the open for some reason. He doesn't want anybody to make money off of it. He just wants the government to make money off of it. But it's the same shit. The revolving door lives on, bro.
Yeah, we'll read a little bit of this more, a little more of this, then we can move on. In June, the same DHS Advisory Committee of CISA, which includes Twitter head of legal policy, trust, and safety, Vijay Gandhi, and University of Washington professor Kate Starbird, drafted a report to the CISA director calling for an expansive role for the agency in shaping the information ecosystem. The report called on the agency to closely monitor, quote, social media platforms of all sizes, media, mainstream media, cable news, hyper-partisan media, talk radio, and other online resources. They argued that the agency needed to take steps to halt the spread of false and misleading information with a focus on information that undermines, quote, key democratic institutions such as the courts or by other sectors such as the financial systems or public health measures. Let's take a slight trip back in time to when the Dobbs decision was passed.
Okay.
Who was it that was talking about blowing up the fucking Supreme Court?
The left.
The left.
Oh, word.
Right. It was the Biden guys, right?
Yeah.
Right. What are we talking about? What are we doing here? Right?
I mean, that was
the same
that was
deal
an
with George
approved
Floyd.
message.
It's not okay when you do it here. If you're going to do it, you're a piece of shit. These guys are okay.
Yeah.
If you're going to do it, you're a piece of shit. Those guys are okay, though. Right? When they're talking about, I don't know, when someone is going to Brett Kavanaugh's house to try and murder him and his family, right? The left is applauding at that. They're jazzed about it.
Literally.
Right? Literally applauding at it. Couldn't be happier. But now that someone's Second Amendment rights are maybe in danger and they're talking about this is fucking insane what's happening here, this is unconstitutional, whatever other example you want to lie out, that's unacceptable, right? But when your abortions are taken away on a national level and we want to murder Brett Kavanaugh, that's all right. That's okay.
We'll let that spread. That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine.
These people don't care about you. They don't care about you at all.
Well, they actively hate you.
They actively hate you.
Yeah, that's what it is. Unless you have the same thought process as them, and you've adopted their narrative, you have no space on here. I mean, every single facet of media, they want control over it all. They're involved in it all.
Independent and partisan media, mainstream media, anything.
And that's why you get into the tech bro sphere, because that's where independent media is. That's where the partisan media, hyper-partisan media, what the fuck does hyper-partisan media even mean? Is that MSNBC?
Probably us.
Oh yeah, I mean we're
According to them, probably us.
yeah.
Yes. What they're also saying with this, the tech companies, that they want there to be no avenue for freely disseminated information. They want every avenue of information to be controlled or at least monitored heavily by the federal government. There should not be, this is what they're saying, there should not be a place in which you can go to freely disseminate information to other people if we can't validate first that it is accurate.
Yeah.
That is what they're saying.
Accurate. Yeah. That's what they're saying.
That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying.
Accurate according to them.
Yes. That's what they're saying. There shouldn't be a free avenue on the internet specifically, for you to go to freely access or freely disseminate information. That shouldn't exist because we can't trust people and their stupid little brains, their weak-ass infrastructure to figure it out.
Well, and the serious problem I have, too, is part of the narrative that's been set up at this point, especially when it comes to the tech world, is during the original adpocalypse. Do you remember what the adpocalypse is?
Remind me. This was pre-YouTube days for me.
This is back in the day.
This was still when I was like, what do you mean calling that you watch YouTube every night? I didn't understand.
Exactly. Right. And I was late to the train too. But at that point there was social media posts, or there was videos coming up on, say, YouTube or something that would be like an ISIS video, right? And then in the middle of that ISIS video, you'd have an ad break for fucking, Clorox bleach or something like that. And then people were like, are you really, Clorox, are you okay with, I don't think it was Clorox, but
Right.
are you okay with like this advertisement being associated with this type of content, blah, blah, blah. And then all the advertisers withdraw.
Right.
All the it all went down. Everybody that was on YouTube making money and shit like that, everybody's revenue crashed, the whole 9 yards. But as that started to return, I think, just trying to like put this in context together, because the timing of this creation of various agencies, right, that control information is somewhat similar to the return after the adpocalypse, right? Because that was when, at the peak, we're like, whoa, this type of information needs to be suppressed. This type of content needs to be suppressed, and we need to have controls over it. Yeah. And so as this stuff comes back now, you'll find in the creator space, if you will, in the content creation space, there's so much conversation around whether or not things are advertiser friendly or not.
Right. And that's sorry, go ahead.
Well, I think it's the cover, essentially, for advertiser friendly. Just means like establishment approved content at that point. It's the same deal. And now, but they can use that as a cover because they're already coming after these companies. They're involved with with these same agencies. They're involved with a lot of these companies. They're involved with the actual tech companies and things like that. And it goes hand in hand, I think.
So there's even, because with Adpocalypse, it was a
legitimate backlash to things, right?
From society.
But now
that's one of the deals with Twitter, right? With Elon Twitter specifically, is like, we can't trust this, especially because you can't have ads. All these companies don't want to run ads because they don't know what's going to be on Twitter, right?
Yes.
Even though I don't know what could possibly be different between that, right? And I heard something similar to that when I was talking to Josh the other day about like the questions of Twitter, because that's one of the things I asked him about, like, what's your take on Elon and Twitter, and what do you think is going to change? And he said something similar to that. I'm just going to read this particular.
Do it.
Yeah.
Just shout out Josh Keaton.
Yeah, just that specific part. I haven't been able to get back to him yet because I wanted to. He sent me some really good, thoughtful response, which I really, really appreciated.
He's a very thoughtful young man.
Yes.
I really like that guy.
I do like the idea of people paying directly to support the site instead of ads, but Twitter's advantage has always been the site to get news fast and hopefully reliably. Giving out checks so easily has harmed that a ton. I also think Elon needs to shut up. Like, I know he feels spurned by liberals, and rightfully, but he's hurting his brand. Okay, so that's what I was going to ask. Was
definitely
about
heard of the brand.
Definitely heard of the brand, right? Well, it was about the ad stuff, because it's not. It's the societal backlash from the companies that is causing that issue.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know that it's in Twitter. It's that it's a tech issue. That's a society issue.
Yes.
That people are somehow conflating whatever they just saw, the post above the Clorox ad, to the Clorox ad, and then what's beneath it. They're conflating those things when there's no fucking reason for that. There's no reason to assume, especially on Twitter, that Clorox supports something that someone else said because they happen to have a sponsored tweet, that you don't subscribe or follow Clorox, but you're still seeing that ad because they're paying for it, right?
Yeah.
That connection is insane. And it was one thing when it was Twitter. It still didn't, or YouTube. It didn't make sense then either, because it's just an ad that's on a show. Granted, no one knew how the ads were being chosen, so they're like, "Are you choosing to advertise on Steven Crowder?" Blah. No one knew. Now that we know that, this argument I like barely even understand, because that's the ignoramuses in society that are saying that. That's not a reality. Clorox is not actually promoting those people by doing those things. Yeah. Right?
No, so we all understand how the ad model works these days. You buy a package, and then YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, they just
put it wherever.
They just put it wherever.
This, to me, closes an understanding loop. It's not just society. You're also receiving government pushback for being on these platforms without attempting to find a way for them to regulate what is going on. And why would you want to potentially catch heat from the government if you can say, I'm just going to pull my ads from this website. I'm just not going to be involved because they're doing shit with the federal government and I don't even want to deal with that. You know? That makes more sense to me, though, because this society thing never made sense to me. That I understood why it was happening, but
As far as like the company's concerned, right? Why would I be concerned about the societal backlash? Because at the end of the day, you're still going to sell as much coke.
And it's not true. I didn't choose to be on Steven Crowder or a beheading video. I didn't do that. I paid a block, like you said, for ads, and it happened to be on there.
Yeah.
Just because my Clorox ad happens to be above Milo Yiannopoulos or whatever, I guess anybody who isn't supposed to be on there, right? Who we hate, Donald Trump if he gets to come back, right? Just because it's above Donald Trump doesn't mean that I condone or support Donald Trump. I paid for a fucking ad on Twitter.
Yeah. It's a good way to get virtue signal clout, though.
1,000%.
That's how you
it's like
do that.
a perfect societal circumstance for all those things to work out.
Yeah. And when corporations try to act as close as they can to people for some reason,
yes,
it works for them too. They get virtue signal points.
And it made me think of, and I'm excited to write back to Josh for this. So if you're listening, Josh, then you get a little piece of the response now, but I'll send you an email with a deeper one. But when he was talking about handing out checks has like devalued that, you know? I don't think that making a check mark easier to obtain devalues it if it still means the same thing. And means the same thing, quote unquote, is like a personal interpretation. But if all that means is that you are who you are, that doesn't devalue that. You just don't have to have 90,000 followers to get it now.
Yeah.
That doesn't take anything away from that unless you are validating people who should, or verifying people who shouldn't be verified, who aren't real.
Which did happen.
I'm sure.
We're going to talk about that later. But
I'm sure that it will. But
that whole blue check, you can't even get one now.
Right.
The whole thing changed.
My point is that buying it does not devalue that if you are still giving good information out. It's only your own shit and the societal backlash that devalues that because they are connecting things that shouldn't be connected.
Yes.
That is what the
it's
issue
when
is.
the blue check became a status symbol,
Yes.
not a verification.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Because it's not just about who you are, like knowing that who you are is who you are.
Yeah.
It's about this is who you are.
It's
the blue check is who
exclusivity
you are.
of the club that came along with
yes.
it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
That's what I don't appreciate about, not just, a lot of people feel that way, so I'm not hearkening on Josh, but I don't appreciate, because that's not true. That's not true.
Yeah.
It devalued it in your life because of the way that you viewed a blue check mark. So for you, it means less now. But it doesn't really, in reality, it does not, because all it does is verify that you are who you are saying you are.
Yes.
That is all that does.
Which was the original intent anyways.
Right.
That was the original intent.
Right.
And then it morphed into the status symbol and only certain people could get it. And now it's even, there's so much chaos around it. I can't wait to talk about it in part 4, but it's totally, the whole system now is up in the fucking air because everything, it was like we tried to do this system and then it completely changed because people took advantage of this new verification system that wasn't anything more than I can pay for this. And that led to some hilarious things happening. But it also completely devalued the entire blue check market overnight. It took a day, 2 days,
as
max.
it should have, because there should never have been inherent value in that to begin with.
Yes.
All it is a validation of who you are, a verification. Validate isn't even good because it adds
it's
a
verification.
Status.
Yeah.
Right, verification. That is exactly what it is. Verifies you are fucking Colin Offenbacher. That is all.
And without going too deep into it, it was to essentially make, like, if you were to have a verification, you are not a bot.
Right.
And that was part of the intent behind it. Definitely backfired, but we'll get more into that in part 4 because that got fucking spicy over the last couple days. And now nothing means anything on Twitter anymore.
Yeah.
It is just fucking crazy town over there. I want to just show this picture real quick.
Mayorkas.
Because as far as,
border.
let's just pretend for a second before we get into midterms, right, that we're going to do, the Republicans going to have all sorts of power and all this stuff. We're going to impeach people. And we're going to, we should not be impeaching anybody except for this type of guy. We need to impeach Mayorkas. We need to impeach fucking the heads of cabinet level members. We'll put it that way. Don't take out the old guy at the top seat because he's not the real problem.
He literally doesn't know what's going on.
It's this guy that is responsible for like managing all of the curation of information on the entire fucking internet. And that's why we're continually like siloed into these various platforms, and that's where all the information is shared because the internet is too big to fully take care of as far as the DHS is concerned. They can't just throw a rope around the entirety of the internet. That's too much. Occasionally there's somebody that operates independently enough, and then they go after them through like Amazon Web Services, and they take down fucking Parler and shit like that, right? But for the vast majority of people, the way they get their information, they're siloed into a few entities, and it's so much easier for them to come after you, which is why centralization of information is so incredibly dangerous, because it gives them a single or just a few points of attack at that point, and they can come after everything, and they can exponentially control the entire narrative by going after a few companies. If you can have a dozen different companies that essentially are responsible for the vast majority of information being shared throughout the entire internet, you hit some banking people, you hit some platforms, you hit some communication companies. You've just covered all the bases at that point. You already have mainstream media in the pocket. They're easy enough to work with. Done. I mean, besides, they're all owned by like 3 companies anyway. So done.
Right.
It's just the easiest thing in the world, which is why the internet itself, when the internet was created and the decentralized nature of information sharing on the internet, what it was created for was the workaround for all of this. But somehow or other, we've all been siloed into these few lanes that now are completely under attack and controlled by the federal government. Thank you, George Bush and Dick Cheney. They made this all possible. If it wasn't them, it would have been someone else.
Yeah.
But that's just the natural progression of government.
The natural course of government.
Yep.
Yeah. So I have just one more point.
Do it. Let's fucking do it.
As always, what does this have to do with freedom and liberty?
Indeed.
Right? What does that have to do with freedom and liberty?
Everything.
The implications of this in our personal freedom is obvious, right? That is obvious. No one, especially someone so helplessly biased, should have any control over our ability to freely exchange ideas. We live in a world of mass information where the vast majority of information can be easily verified. The removal of our individual necessity to take an active and responsible role in our growth is merely the tip of the iceberg. Once removed of personal responsibility, our facilitated reliance on the state grows, and their true goal is being achieved.
How dare you!
Fact check true, bro. It's not good. This is how liberty dies.
So, there we go.
Beautiful.
With that, everyone, I want to thank you for sticking with us for part 2. We're back in about 5 minutes. For part 3, we're talking about the midterms. We're going to go over the results that we know so far. We're going over how we got here, some explanations, some theories, some different things of all that nature. This has been fantastic.
Yes.
Soul Streets, episode 137, part 2. We're back in just a few minutes for part 3. Thank you very much.
Peace.
Welcome to the salt of the streets, coming at you every week with this food for thought. Hope you ready.